Shuchi is an introvert with a face resembling a blobfish, which often makes him the target of jokes, especially from the girls at school. However, his life changes when suddenly Shuchi catches the attention of the most popular girls at school, who are willing to do anything to get his attention. Before that stroke of luck, Shuchi was in the homeroom teacher's office discussing career options after graduating from high school. How surprised Shuchi was when the career option that popped up was stag beetle. He told his teacher that he once caught a beetle for a little kid, and that kid was really happy. That's when Shuchi felt that becoming like Santa Claus might be his path. Unfortunately, his teacher seemed disappointed by how silly that choice was and suggested that Shuchi consider becoming a manga artist. After leaving the teacher's office, Shuchi returned to class and saw Hikari sitting at her desk. Politely, he asked for permission to sit, but Hikari just gave him a sly smile and said she enjoyed teasing Shuchi because she liked seeing him act foolish. When Hikari left, Shuchi noticed a sweat stain from the cake she ate on his desk, and he stared at it curiously, wondering what Hikari was really thinking. That night, Shuchi spent time playing games like Monopoly with his younger sister, Tomo. Unfortunately, his luck wasn't as good as in real life, as he kept landing in jail in the game. Frustrated, Shuchi said he wasn't upset, just losing. As he walked to his room, Tomo asked if he was preparing for the final exam so he wouldn't get a life sentence from their parents again. Shuchi replied that he had been trying his best, adding that lately he had been thinking a lot about his future. Hearing this, Tomo looked surprised and said that although she wasn't sure what Shuchi would do with his challenging life, what mattered was that he gave it his best effort. The next day at school, during lunchtime, Shuchi approached Hikari and her friends who were sitting at a cafeteria table. They immediately asked if it was true that Shuchi wanted to become a manga artist, which shocked Shuchi because it turned out his homeroom teacher had spread a false rumor. Shuchi sat down with them, and as usual, they started teasing him, joking about how Shuchi would create a manga with an absurd plot. Shuchi just told them to be quiet and not to interfere with his future career. Later in the library, when the dumbest kid in class was studying with the smartest kid, Hikari came back to interrupt them. Instead, Hikari begged Shuchi to stop drawing manga, even though Shuchi was actually focused on studying. Hikari said that Ikkyo, the smart friend, would help him study. This surprised Shuchi, as he had thought Hikari had only come to keep pestering him. During gym class, Ikkyo suddenly told Shuchi that she had seen Hikari a few days ago walking with an older guy. This made Shuchi curious, and Ikkyo joked that Hikari might have a sugar daddy. Shuchi was shocked to hear this, but he tried to stay calm and answered casually, thinking it might just be a coincidence. A few days later, after the exams were over, the results came out. Shuchi and Hikari both passed, but one of their friends looked sad because she failed. As the girls were leaving, Kyuko suddenly appeared and teased Shuchi, saying that she was surprised to see Shuchi popular among girls now, unlike back when he was lonely and miserable. After that, Shuchi thanked Ikkyo for helping him study and pass the exam. Soon after, Ikkyo invited Shuchi to join a summer course at the prep school, where they would go to a resort hotel to study for 2 weeks. But casually, Shuchi declined, saying that he just wanted to have fun right now, not study again. That night, when Shuchi went home, he saw Hikari working in a cafe with an old man. He wondered if that was the man Ikkyo had talked about. However, his attention shifted to Hikari, and he couldn't deny that she looked way out of his league. Shuchi began to ponder whether working part-time like Hikari could bring him closer to girls like her. But that thought quickly passed, and Shuchi decided to contact Ikkyo to let him know he was interested in joining the summer course. The next day, Shuchi packed his bag and headed to the summer course. At the hotel, while he was chatting with Ikkyo, Shuchi suddenly noticed a strange figure standing near the window in the distance. When he pointed it out to Ikkyo, the figure had already disappeared. Ikkyo, in a serious tone, told Shuchi about the rumor of the ghost of a third-year student who had jumped from there, which instantly scared Shuchi. That night, Shuchi felt really bad after finding out that his IQ was the lowest among all the students there. He returned to his room feeling regretful, thinking he should have followed Hikari to the beach. Maybe that could have been an opportunity to get closer to her. However, Shuchi quickly slapped his own cheek, reminding himself that he was there not to have fun, but to change himself into a better person. With renewed spirit, Shuchi stood by the window, ready to shout to the universe that he wouldn't give up, no matter what. Suddenly, someone pulled the window frame from outside, startling Shuchi half to death. A creepy girl appeared, crawling slowly in the dim light, looking like she had just survived a zombie apocalypse. The girl came closer, making Shuchi almost wet his pants. But instead of being scary, the girl just said she was cold and asked if she could borrow a towel. Shuchi was shocked to realize that the girl was Hikari. He was confused, wondering what Hikari was doing there. Hikari explained that her parents had forced her to join the summer course after they found out she was working behind their backs. Hikari shared that her parents had kidnapped her and taken her to this remote hotel in the mountains. While trying to escape, Hikari got caught in the rain and was chased by a herd of deer before finally finding an open window and climbing in. As Hikari continued to talk, she sat in a chair, and Shuchi noticed that her clothes were wet. He was puzzled, wondering if it was from the rain or a leak from her pants. Hikari refused to wear clothes from the other girls, thinking they would just mock her as a creepy loser. Instead, she asked to borrow Shuchi's clothes, which made him extremely happy. Without thinking twice, Shuchi gave them to her, and Hikari left with his clothes, leaving Shuchi smiling stupidly as he watched her back slowly fade from view. The next day, during lunch, Shuchi and his friends chatted with Hikari and her new friend Mako. Hikari complained because one of the teachers punished her by making her clean the toilets after she was caught trying to escape from class. Jokingly, Hikari asked Shuchi to clean the girls' bathroom while still wearing his clothes. Shuchi instantly felt excited and agreed, which surprised Ikkyo, who teased him as a living love letter. After that, Hikari served her punishment and continued to complain to Mako about how miserable her day had been. In the middle of her rant, Hikari asked Mako to teach her how to use the washing machine. Mako, who eventually guided her, realized how happy Hikari was because she felt ready to be a future wife. Now, she could wash clothes for her boyfriend. Curious, Mako asked, "Is Shuchi your boyfriend? Everyone's talking about you too." Hikari, surprised, replied, "What are they talking about?" Hesitantly, Mako answered that there was a rumor going around that other students thought Hikari was Shuchi's girlfriend because she was casually walking around in Shuchi's sports clothes. Instead of getting mad, Hikari responded as if the gossip were true. She joked and started telling naughty stories about what they supposedly did behind closed doors, which made Mako eager to know more. After that incident, Shuchi was standing by the vending machine when he suddenly overheard two girls discussing his relationship with Hikari and the alleged mischief they were getting into together. Shuchi hurriedly explained that nothing like that was happening between him and Hikari, but the two girls seemed very upset. Shuchi suspected they were just jealous because they were like a dollar bill, single and uninteresting. Things got more complicated when Hikari suddenly showed up with her washed clothes and agreed with all the silly gossip the girls had said. After they left, Hikari pulled Shuchi to a quieter spot and handed back his clothes, thanking him for his help. Confused, Shuchi asked why Hikari brought him there, and he didn't want the rumors to spread further. During their conversation, Shuchi was shocked when Hikari admitted that this was the first time she had done laundry. She said she usually just made midnight snacks at home while her mom took care of all the household chores. Hearing that, Shuchi joked, "You don't look like someone who enjoys domestic work," which made Hikari a little annoyed. To prove herself, Hikari promised to make midnight snacks for Shuchi in return. That night, keeping her promise, Hikari returned with delicious food for them. Shuchi, along with Ikkyo and Miko, enjoyed the snacks while Hikari looked pleased to have fulfilled her promise. That night, Hikari was washing dishes in the kitchen when Shuchi suddenly showed up and offered to take turns washing. But Hikari casually said she was used to doing this at work, and before she left, she wanted to return the favor. Shuchi was surprised to hear Hikari was leaving and asked her why. Hikari replied that she didn't have any clothes left to wear. Innocently, Shuchi said Hikari could just keep her sports clothes as long as she wanted. But Hikari insisted on leaving anyway. Shuchi wouldn't accept that so easily. He said he wasn't going to let Hikari go because he didn't want her to get caught in a dangerous situation or chased by a herd of deer again, like last time. A week later, Shuchi was lost in his thoughts in class when suddenly someone bumped into him from behind, startling him and catching the attention of the whole class. He turned around and found it was Hikari. Shuchi was shocked and confused, asking what Hikari was doing in his class. Hikari casually replied that they had a lesson in that class today. But what made Shuchi even more flustered was the way Hikari spoke softly, making him feel all tingly. He was so nervous that he almost wet his pants. Their classmates started to notice the awkwardness between Shuchi and Hikari. Hikari even opened her jacket zipper a bit, showing off her curves while teasing as if she wanted everyone to know how big they were. Shuchi, who was already embarrassed, became even more flustered and hurriedly zipped Hikari's jacket back up. After class ended, Shuchi ran into Hikari again, and she immediately asked if her classmates often acted like that. Shuchi just grinned and said, "Well, maybe you're just too hot for them." Hikari then suggested that maybe they should talk less in class so no one gets suspicious. Hearing that, she said seriously, "Okay, I won't talk to you anymore." Shuchi was taken aback but couldn't do anything about it. Then, Hikari asked why he was taking summer classes, but Shuchi fell silent, not knowing how to respond because he was stuck. That night, while having dinner after studying for a bit, Shuchi kept thinking about Hikari's question from earlier. He knew he was taking this class because of Hikari, who motivated him to become a better person, but Shuchi didn't have the courage to tell her that. Suddenly, Hikari popped into Shuchi's room and said she needed someone to hang out with. But Shuchi declined, saying he had to study, even though they ended up chatting anyway. Shuchi felt annoyed because he knew he should be focusing on his studies, not dealing with Hikari's chatter. Hikari then asked, "Aren't you worried that other students might be studying hard in their rooms while you're here wasting your tuition money?" Shuchi was shocked, but Hikari continued, I'm learning from the best teacher. Then suddenly, Hikari grabbed a book and pretended to study. But before long, she complained again, saying she would rather be at the beach having fun than studying in the middle of the night. Hikari said, if I were at the beach, I'd be wearing a bikini, and maybe there'd be some loser trying to hit on me, while giving Shuchi a mischievous smile. Shuchi, being innocent, said Hikari would definitely look cute in a bikini. Hearing that, Hikari joked, do you want to see me in a bikini now? Before Shuchi could respond, Hikari had already rushed him into the boys' bathroom. Shuchi panicked immediately, his face turning red because he didn't expect to be in the boys' bathroom at midnight, especially with Hikari. In the middle of his panic, he asked, what are we doing here? Hikari casually smiled and replied, I just wanted to see your reaction when you see me soaking wet in my birthday suit. A few minutes later, Shuchi and Hikari entered the pool area, keeping the appropriate distance. They were chatting casually until suddenly the pool lights turned on brightly. Without thinking, Hikari dove into the water to hide herself. A teacher appeared, saying, what are you doing here at this hour? Shuchi quickly looked for an excuse and replied, I was just waiting here to have a guy talk, sir. However, the teacher wasn't impressed. The teacher firmly ordered Shuchi to get out of the pool and go back to his room. When Shuchi finally got out of the water, the teacher was shocked to see him in tight swim trunks. Staring at Shuchi in disbelief, the teacher wondered to himself, who is this kid, and why is he so ridiculous? Which, of course, made him even more horrified, and he quickly walked away, feeling weird about the whole situation. That night, Shuchi and Hikari finally chatted again in a safer place. Shuchi suddenly asked, do you like Araki? Araki, the most popular guy in school, was clearly a sensitive topic for Hikari, but she didn't give a clear answer. Hikari just remained silent. Then, Shuchi asked again, this time more personally, that guy from the cafe, is he your boyfriend? Hikari was surprised by the question because Shuchi had actually seen her at work. Hikari quickly replied that the guy wasn't her boyfriend, but just the cafe owner. Hikari then asked again, with a slightly suspicious tone, you're the one who reported me to my parents, right? Shuchi immediately denied it, saying it wasn't him, but from the way Shuchi looked at her, it was clear Hikari didn't fully believe him. Finally, Hikari suggested they go back to their rooms. A few days later, the summer course ended. All the students started getting ready to go home, but Shuchi couldn't relax. He kept wondering why Hikari hadn't talked to him since that night. The latest news was that Hikari had quit her job due to pressure from her parents. A week later, school started again. And on the way to school, Shuchi saw Hikari from a distance, staring at Araki and his girlfriend. Shuchi began to wonder if Hikari actually liked Araki. However, when Hikari saw Shuchi, she hurriedly left, leaving Shuchi with one conclusion. Hikari really thought he was the one who reported her. A few weeks later, Shuchi received a letter from Hikari asking to meet outside. At first, Shuchi was a bit confused but still agreed. When they met, Hikari returned the jacket that Shuchi had lent her, which really surprised him. Shuchi didn't expect Hikari to just do that. As Hikari was getting ready to leave, Shuchi hurriedly stopped her. Shuchi was still confused as to why Hikari had suddenly gone silent and distanced herself from him. Why aren't you talking to me anymore? Shuchi asked curiously. With a blank expression, Hikari said, don't let Yuki find out we got close during last summer's course. Shuchi became even more puzzled. Why are you avoiding me? He pressed. Hikari finally explained, I just don't want Yuki to get suspicious. That's all. But Shuchi still didn't understand the reason. He felt like Hikari was being vague and hiding something. In the end, Hikari took her jacket back from his hand and said, if you keep acting like this, I'm not giving this back to you. Shuchi just gave a faint smile and said, I'm not taking it back either until you truly understand what's really going on. They ended up in a strange little argument, like a couple on the verge of breaking up but not knowing how. In the middle of their quarrel, a girl with a super stiff appearance suddenly showed up. She introduced herself as Makoto from the Student Disciplinary Committee. She said she had come because there were reports of students acting strangely, supposedly inspired by an incident in Ohio, whatever that meant. Makoto then explained that she had seen several students engaging in suspicious behavior, but she couldn't stop them because the story had gotten too intense. Shuchi and Hikari looked at each other, confused about what Makoto was talking about. Makoto continued her explanation, and suddenly Hikari realized that Yuki might be connected to all of this. Without thinking twice, Hikari quickly invited Shuchi to go to the place where Yuki usually hung out. Sure enough, they saw Yuki trying to flirt with Araki. Hikari looked upset. After Araki left, Hikari approached Yuki and directly asked, "Why did you report me?" Yuki, without any guilt, replied, "Araki seems to like you, so I had to get rid of you." Instead of feeling betrayed, Hikari seemed calm. Hikari wasn't too angry, even though the truth had been revealed. She even thanked Yuki for being honest with her. Meanwhile, Shuchi could only watch them with mixed feelings. Yuki, realizing that Shuchi was there, finally turned and asked, "What are you doing here?" Hikari calmly responded, "I brought Shuchi here so he could know the whole truth, because I suspected from the beginning that he was the informant." After that incident, Hikari came with a plate of strange food she had cooked to apologize to Shuchi for having doubted him. Shuchi was left speechless, wondering why Hikari was still avoiding him even though she now knew that Araki was the real troublemaker. Yuki, who was still there, also added that Araki knew who the informant was and explained that Hikari had intentionally kept her distance so Yuki wouldn't get suspicious. If they were too close, Yuki would definitely spread rumors, because Araki was known for gossiping. Shuchi finally realized that Hikari had been protecting him all along. If the kids in class found out that Shuchi had spent the entire summer course with the most popular girl in school, he would probably become a target for bullying. In the end, Hikari returned Shuchi's jacket. Everything was now resolved. As Shuchi received his jacket, Hikari suddenly grabbed his hand and invited them to go to the beach. At the beach, Hikari suddenly became suspicious. She asked Shuchi, "You didn't bring your secret weapon, did you?" Shuchi was confused and replied, "I didn't bring anything," feeling offended by the question. But Hikari just laughed, saying she was feeling suspicious about something and wanted to feel soaked like the ocean they were staring at. Suddenly, without warning, Hikari leaned in and kissed him. Shuchi was completely shocked. In his mind, he never imagined getting a kiss from the hottest girl in school, especially with his face being a little messy. That night, Shuchi felt like he might have a chance to get even closer to Hikari. He tried to pull off the "do your eyes" trick that he said he learned from an influencer, Kai Sanat. But before he could say anything, Hikari interrupted him and honestly shared her feelings. Hikari said that after graduation, she would be going to a culinary school far away to improve her skills, so she thought it would be better if they just stayed friends. Shuchi instantly felt like he had entered the friend zone and didn't know what to say. But Hikari also mentioned that Shuchi was the reason she was motivated to pursue culinary school. That night, Shuchi had complimented her cooking, and that praise gave her the confidence to take the next step. Hikari didn't want Shuchi to stand in the way of her dreams. Even though Shuchi said he understood, he couldn't lie about feeling like they were drifting apart. At first, he thought they'd grow closer, but the reality was the opposite. And just when he started thinking that women were really hard to understand, Hikari suddenly kissed him on the cheek again. He was shocked, feeling like he was just a nice guy who was always seen as funny but could never be more than that. Since that moment, he felt guilty for not being bolder that night, and gradually their relationship grew distant. A few weeks later, he was busy playing games with his friends at school, using an outdated PS Vita. Suddenly, a girl named Toru, who looked pretty average, came up and accused them of watching a corn concert behind the stairs. But they casually replied that they were just wasting time playing games here. Toru pushed them to play a new game. Shuchi suddenly responded confidently, allowing her to introduce the new game. Proudly, Toru introduced herself while showing the game console she brought, then invited them to play together. She quickly joined them to play, but soon after, Shirori appeared calling for her. When Shirori saw Shuchi and his idiot friends, she just shrugged, since they were already known for skipping class to play games behind the stairs. After realizing that the main player there was Shuchi, Toru was really surprised. She finally met the most famous otaku gamer at school, who was so serious about games that he considered them more important than his future. Deep down, Shuchi felt a bit of pride, like a Sigma for a moment, hoping to impress the pretty girl. Unfortunately, Shirori quickly dragged her away. That night, Shuchi couldn't sleep. His mind kept drifting to Toru. He was determined to improve his gaming skills to match her level. The next day, the three of them walked to their usual hangout spot. They were shocked to find Toru already waiting there. She said she had something for them and invited them to a karaoke bar. Of course, everyone was confused, wondering what a game had to do with a karaoke place. Toru wasted their time with her terrible singing, and the three idiots could only shake their heads, thinking why she hadn't auditioned for America's Got Talent instead. After she finished singing, Toru sat down and finally showed them the item she had promised. From that moment on, they all started playing games together. One day, while they were engrossed in a multiplayer game, they started a match, but Araki suddenly lost focus. He was stuck on level 10 in front of him, almost so scared that he nearly wet himself right before the enemy defeated him in the game. Araki couldn't accept it and asked why they beat him. But unfortunately, none of them cared to give him an answer that matched his low IQ. The next day, they continued their game session. After defeating a big boss with Ice K, Ikkyo grabbed a bunny ring that could boost her stats. But with some overenthusiastic energy, Ikkyo tried to act like a real man, though it was clearly not her thing, and offered the ring to Toru. Seeing that, Shuchi immediately thought Ikkyo was an idiot. "It's better for you to equip your own character rather than get all crazy over a girl whose level is way above yours," he said, mocking her slightly. Even so, Shuchi didn't want to take back his offer, even though his heart felt a bit heavy. After realizing this, Toru pulled out a bunny string she had just made and gave it to Shuchi, surprising everyone. In the middle of that moment, Shuchi remembered the limited time claw machine event being held to celebrate the launch of the Milliburn game. They all rushed to the store to play the claw machine. Once they arrived, Toru and Shuchi started chatting. Shuchi asked Toru if she was interested in Guscle, a game Shuchi used to play in middle school. He mentioned there was an event for the game happening there, and then Toru asked if they should team up a little. Without hesitation, they teamed up and played against some random kids who looked way too confident. However, Toru showed no mercy and completely crushed them. After that, Shuchi approached the kids and gave them the bunny string that Toru had given him as a way to make up for their loss. Toru should have gone easier on them, or no one will want to play with her if she keeps this up, said Shuchi. Even so, Toru thanked him for playing along, giving them both a nice nostalgic feeling. Shuchi then asked if Toru wanted to be his Gusco partner, claiming that Toru would get way better by playing together. Of course, feeling a bit shy, Toru happily agreed. A few days later, after they finished playing at their usual spot, Toru stood up and got ready to head to class. After Toru left, Shuchi said he didn't want to play Gusco anymore. He told his friends that playing Gusco was draining his wallet since it was the only game Toru played. His friends then asked for other game suggestions that might be more fun, and Shuchi suggested a bus driving game. But Toru found it boring and quickly switched back to Gusco. It was at that moment that Shuchi realized Toru might be after his soul. Shuchi left the game and while passing through the arcade, he saw a few girls who seemed careful not to get caught in a place like that. As he chatted with the two girls, Toru suddenly joined them, saying she had to head to her cram school. Shuchi, curious, asked which cram school she was talking about. One of the girls immediately recognized it as a famous elite prep school. After Toru left, Shuchi felt proud that they had played games together. But then the girls asked, why doesn't Shuchi go to cram school too? They warned him that if he kept this up, he might end up repeating the school year and becoming Toru's classmate. On his way to the store, Shuchi paused for a moment and imagined how cool it would be to go to the same school as his crush. But when he remembered how much of a mess he looked, Shuchi quickly pushed the thought away. Suddenly, after meeting Toru, Shuchi saw Ikyo and started wondering what was really going on. He went home to see Tomo and asked her about what the girls had said, but when Shuchi tried to tell her what they thought about him, he found himself at a loss for words. The next day, at the arcade, Shuchi stepped out for a moment to use the bathroom. When he returned, he found one of the boys, Takeshi, who had previously been beaten by Toru, had brought Hikari to challenge her. As they prepared to battle in Gusco, Toru, curious, asked Hikari if that one-eyed clown was her brother. Hikari immediately responded by telling Toru to mind her own business. But Takeshi added that he would reveal the information if they won. The game battle began, and after several character exchanges, Toru's team managed to win, leaving Hikari surprised. However, Araki and Ikkyo noticed members of the student discipline committee outside disciplining students who were caught, and they wondered if they should make a run for it. They quickly informed Shuchi about the situation so he and Toru could escape while they tried to buy some time. After spotting the committee, Hikari immediately followed Shuchi to get away. After successfully escaping to a safe place, Shuchi was still curious about Hikari's connection to that boy. Finally, Hikari revealed that Takeshi was her boss, nicknamed the Spoiled Kid. Hikari quickly left after a brief tense moment with Toru, and after that, Shuchi and Toru continued on to a cafe to relax with some mocktails. At the cafe, Shuchi asked Toru about her relationship with Hikari. Toru answered that Hikari was her boss. Shuchi then mentioned that Hikari was the Spoiled Kid. Toru also revealed that Hikari used to be her junior in middle school. They used to visit arcades together and had fun until their relationship got hit by a truck, or rather, fell apart. However, Toru said that now she enjoys playing games more than she did in middle school, and it's all thanks to Shuchi. Shuchi felt awkward hearing that compliment, even though he knew it meant he had spent his entire savings with no guarantee. After a while, Shuchi finally finished his mocktail, but he left the cherry in the glass. Seeing that, Toru, with a mischievous smile, asked if she could put the cherry in her mouth. Of course, Shuchi happily agreed, hoping that Toru would return the favor by giving him a cherry to eat too. The next day, Ikkyo and Araki were forced to serve detention for getting caught at the arcade. They told Shuchi that they were banned from going to the arcade until the end of the semester. Araki then started complaining about how they had felt pressured since Toru joined their gaming sessions. Araki said he missed the times when it was just the three of them having fun with their joysticks. Shuchi responded by revealing that Araki wasn't the only one who had been banned from the arcade in the past 3 years. Then, the next day, Ikkyo and Araki ran into Toru, and Ikkyo explained that they happened to meet while Ikkyo was searching for her crush, who she thought was attending an intensive school. After that, Araki and Ikkyo started teasing Shuchi about his feelings for Toru, but Shuchi immediately became embarrassed and said he only respected her as a fellow gamer. The next day at school, Shuchi started to feel worried because Toru didn't show up. Hikari then took Shuchi to a secluded spot in the room for him to ask about what happened yesterday. Hikari explained that when they were still in school, Toru was the most popular girl there. Toru had an incredible talent for everything she did, far surpassing her peers, which made her a topic of conversation among the students. The girls began to dislike her because they felt they couldn't compete with Toru, and for those who thought they were cool and different, they realized that they had been acting like boys all along. In his third year, Shuchi felt as if everyone had abandoned him, and he was trapped in loneliness. On the other hand, Hikari told Shuchi that when she saw him hanging out with Toru, she immediately felt like her ego would be shattered. But Shuchi replied casually that he didn't really have much of an ego, since he was just a useless piece of trash with a jerk's face. With determination, Shuchi told Hikari that he would never distance himself from Toru. Soon after, Shuchi called Toru to ask why she hadn't come to school. Toru said she was fine and asked if Shuchi wanted to play Guscle today. Shuchi replied that the discipline committee was on high alert for the scapegoat hunt that would be visiting the arcade. Hearing this, Toru invited him to her place. This immediately sent Shuchi's dirty mind racing with 1,000 ways to tease Toru. He tried to keep his excitement in check so as not to make a mess of his pants. Upon arriving at Toru's apartment, a strange man pulled him inside. Shuchi began to wonder if Toru had something weird planned between them. However, the man introduced himself as Saba, Toru's older brother, and they chatted while waiting for Toru, who was taking a bath. When Toru finally arrived, she took him to her room to play Guscle. She said she had spent all night trying to defeat a tough opponent but hadn't succeeded. Seeing this, Shuchi grabbed the gamepad to try his luck. Toru also said it would be easier if there were 4 of them. However, Shuchi revealed that Toru and her friend had already been punished, and were not allowed to play games until after the final exams. This made Toru feel sad, as if she was the cause of it all. Even though Shuchi tried to reassure her that it wasn't her fault, Toru didn't listen. Toru then grabbed her phone and went to the bathroom, saying she was going to call someone. After the game ended, Toru called Hikari and challenged her to a match, but Hikari responded that she didn't have time to waste. Hikari had only wanted to play with Toru at their previous meeting because of Takashi. In the end, Hikari said that she hadn't played games since middle school, but pointed out that Toru now had a partner to play with. After the call, Toru shyly told Shuchi that she wanted to play with him. Shuchi got excited right away and revealed that he had a secret spot in the arcade that the president could never reach. They headed off to the secret arcade and got their tickets before heading to the foosball table. As soon as they started playing and hitting the tracking ball, Toru quickly defeated Shuchi, even though it was her first time playing. However, Toru realized that her finger was hurt from hitting the trackball. Seeing that, Shuchi offered to treat it for her. The next day, Shuchi waited for Toru at their usual gaming spot at school. Even though Toru was late, Shuchi eagerly waited, fantasizing about chatting with her again. When Toru finally showed up, her face immediately turned red upon seeing him. After chatting for a bit, Toru suddenly invited Shuchi to join her at the comic convention. Shuchi responded that it felt like a date, which made Toru boldly ask if Shuchi wanted to go on a date. Happily, Shuchi said yes, and he felt like this would be a reward for helping her at the upcoming comic market event. A week later, Shuchi and his little sister arrived at the comic market event. They began searching for Shiori and Toru, only to find Toru dressed in a bunny costume. Seeing her, Shuchi's heart seemed to jump, and he blushed right away. On the other hand, Toru wasn't as enthusiastic and felt embarrassed by the weird costume. Some potential customers seemed to be checking out the items they were selling, while others, the girls, were trying to persuade them. One of the vendors looked really creepy, making the atmosphere tense. Toru felt embarrassed because her scary appearance once again frightened them, even though she was trying to do the opposite of her job. Shuchi had an idea to check if the products they were selling could be used as body care decorations, but when Shuchi tested where he should place them on Toru's body, Toru suddenly felt calm and ran away before fully realizing it. Shuchi was surprised and started looking for her. He found Toru in front of a group of photographers who seemed eager to capture moments with her, even though Toru clearly looked uncomfortable. Shuchi thought about pushing through the crowd to take her away, but the photographers wouldn't let him in. At that moment, Shuchi saw Shiori, who mentioned that the photographers must really like Toru because they were so excited to take her picture. Shuchi immediately replied that he just wanted to get Toru out of the crowd. With the intention to help, Shiori suddenly pulled out her Guscle Kamite. Shiori took off her cosplay costume, drawing the photographer's attention so Shuchi could escape with Toru. Without realizing it, they ran toward the bathroom area, but when Toru noticed, she asked Shuchi to help her unzip her costume so she could change. Toru felt embarrassed when she saw the zipper was near her lower back, so she said her hands couldn't reach it so Shuchi wouldn't have to do it. However, Toru positioned herself properly and asked him to help. After that, the event continued, and after all the sales were done, they stopped by a cafe to eat. However, Shuchi was shocked to see Hikari working there, and he pretended not to know her to avoid raising suspicion from the people around. After chatting for a bit at the table, Toru gave Shuchi a gift as thanks for helping at the comic market event. Toru also shared how this season of her life had been so entertaining, filled with exciting moments even more than all the fun she had in high school. All of it was thanks to Shuchi choosing to be with her. Toru then joked about how she tried too hard just to get Shuchi's attention. However, Shuchi quickly reminded her that she needed to start preparing for the upcoming exam the next day. On their way home, As they were getting ready to part ways, Hikari appreciated them for coming and invited them to return again. But Hikari frowned at seeing Shuchi's unpleasant expression once more and gently mentioned that he looked better when he smiled. Hearing that, Tura felt jealous and quickly left, surprising Shuchi. Without thinking, Shuchi chased after Tura to find out what happened. Tura revealed that she had just realized she had been wearing the bunny cosplay costume all day, but Shuchi never complimented her. Tura said she wanted to leave, but suddenly remembered her promise to go on a date if he helped at Kamama. Tura was shocked and said it was too late. However, Shuchi insisted that this was his only chance to take her on a date before he had to start preparing for exams. They both realized that love seemed to be in the air. Without hesitation, Shuchi grabbed Tura's hand and said he wanted to make her his girlfriend. However, Tura declined, admitting that she wasn't good at relationships, which made Shuchi feel sad. Shuchi looked up at the moon, reflecting on how miserable his life was, wondering if his face had messed everything up again. Suddenly, Tura noticed Shuchi's Adam's apple and started sucking on it, surprising him. Tura confessed that she liked his Adam's apple and couldn't resist when they were alone, saying she had been eyeing it for a long time. But Tura preferred to chew on a sausage rather than an apple. Tura noticed the mark on his neck caused by her lips and immediately apologized. After that, she gave him a bandage and added that there was something else she liked about Shuchi, which was why she always chased after him. Tura asked if Shuchi would keep coming to her. And in an unexpected moment, Shuchi hugged her, surprising her with his bold action. Afterward, they shared a sweet kiss. A few weeks later, Shuchi started getting involved with a girl named Kyuko, a first-year student who was a huge fan of Kamikotaku. When his classmates asked about Kyuko, Shuchi proudly said that Kyuko was his childhood friend. But the girls in his class teased him, saying that Kyuko was still childish for liking Kamikotaku. One day, while Shuchi and Kyuko were chatting about how the comic Kyuko had shown earlier had become more explicit and developed a complex plot over time, Kyuko mentioned that she had changed too. In the middle of their conversation, Tomo suddenly appeared and asked what they were doing together. Not long after, the homeroom teacher also showed up, surprised to see Shuchi. Tomo left immediately, while the teacher warned Shuchi not to ever reveal the fact that he and his sibling were alone on the rooftop. After that moment, Kyuko invited Shuchi to a cafe to buy pancakes, but Shuchi hesitated. He felt that eating pancakes in a place like that would damage his masculine image. Kyuko tried to reassure him, saying that Shuchi didn't give off a strong masculine vibe anyway, and maybe Kyuko wasn't heterosexual. Shuchi felt insulted by that comment, so he insisted on proving how manly he was. At the cafe, Shuchi devoured a stack of pancakes and told Kyuko that only a real man could eat that much. However, Kyuko remained skeptical and said that the manliest thing he could do was get a girlfriend. Even though Shuchi was a gamer, he seemed to have no clue about the game of love. That night, Shuchi asked Tomo about what she was really doing alone with the class teacher on the rooftop. Tomo just told him not to ask stupid questions, and if he found a girl, he should meet her immediately. Then, Tomo revealed that the man asked about the Ape and K restaurant, as well as the Home Economics Club. Shuchi was shocked to hear that and wondered what the Home Economics Club was up to. Tomo explained that it was a girls-only club that collected unwanted clothes, making it popular among girls who needed pocket money. However, Shuchi thought there was something suspicious behind it. Meanwhile, Kyuko was at home, thinking about how Shuchi had called her childish. Kyuko felt stressed because she didn't want to lose interest in everything she liked in middle school. With a blank stare, Kyuko looked at her comic book collection, and the next day, she decided to pack them up and take them to the park. At the park, Kyuko met Nao and Koharu started chatting with her. During the conversation, Koharu asked why Kyuko looked like she had been slapped by Hulk. Kyuko explained that a boy she had known for a long time called her childish, and it seemed like boys grew up faster than her in middle school, which stressed her out. Koharu then suggested that Kyuko join the Home Economics Club, which would help her develop her feminine charm and win the heart of her childhood friend. Koharu told Kyuko to come next week at night, and Kyuko felt confused. When Kyuko asked why Koharu wanted to meet her at night, Koharu responded that Kyuko should come if she had any doubts about meeting her childhood friend. On Monday night, Kyuko went to meet Koharu and Nao with Shuchi. After introducing themselves, Shuchi became curious about what they were doing there. Shuchi saw a dress displayed on a mannequin, felt embarrassed, and asked what they were doing with it. However, Koharu told him to step outside for a moment if he wanted to know. After Shuchi left, the two girls began a transformation ritual on Kyuko. A little while later, the three of them met Shuchi outside, and Kyuko was with them. Kyuko looked graceful in a kimono, and as they sat down at a table to chat, the girls immediately asked Kyuko if she was ready to join the club. However, before Kyuko could answer, Shuchi quickly interrupted. He wondered why they were buying second-hand clothes and expressed his concerns about letting Kyuko join a club that he thought seemed a bit suspicious. Tension began to rise, almost leading to a physical fight. But fortunately, Shiori, the former club president, arrived to meet them. Shiori explained that they were buying second-hand clothes because their budget wasn't enough to buy things like kimonos and dumplings, so they used old fabrics to make clothes that could be sold. After that explanation, Kyuko finally expressed her desire to join the club, and Shuchi could only wish her the best. 3 months passed, and Christmas was just around the corner. One day in class, Hikari's classmate approached her and asked about her plans for Christmas Eve. Hikari replied that she had a few things planned, with dinner at a fancy hotel being the last on the list. Shuchi, overhearing this, was surprised at how lucky Hikari was to be going on a date. While thinking about how amazing Hikari was, Ikuo suddenly appeared in front of him to talk about Christmas as well. At first, Shuchi thought Ikuo was going to tell him about their plans for Christmas. However, Ikuo immediately stated that she also had plans. Ikuo explained that she would be spending time with her crush, who was still in elementary school. Shuchi instantly felt that the issue was with him, feeling lonely after hearing that. After that conversation, Shuchi headed to the home economics club room and found a girl asleep in a strange costume. Once the girl woke up, Shuchi realized that it was Kyuko. Shuchi was shocked and asked about the costume she was wearing. Kyuko replied that she was modeling a costume for the Founders Festival. Kyuko then offered him cake and tea, mentioning that she had made lots of cakes in preparation for the upcoming festival. However, Shuchi didn't want to miss out and also wanted to taste the cake. When he tried the cake, Shuchi was surprised at how delicious it was, especially after Kyuko had joined the club. After that, as Shuchi was getting ready to leave, he tried to ask Kyuko out on a date after the Founders Festival. However, Shuchi paused for a moment and firmly said that Kyuko didn't need to worry because he didn't have the guts at all. Then, Shuchi turned to Hikari for a recommendation on a good Christmas date plan. Hikari suggested that Shuchi try the adult Christmas options. Without hesitation, Shuchi quickly Googled what that meant. Of course, he was fascinated by information that he didn't even fully understand. After that, Shuchi continued his way to the home economics clubroom, where he heard they were having trouble with the costumes for the upcoming festival. So, Shuchi quickly offered to donate some of the clothes he used to wear as a child. Shuchi brought Kyuko to his house to give her those clothes. On the way back, Shuchi showed her adult Christmas costumes. He then asked Kyuko if she would go with him after the Founders Festival. However, Kyuko immediately declined because she had to clean the home economics club, so she had to miss it. This third rejection made Shuchi struggle to swallow, as if his hopes were shattered again. As they kept walking, Shuchi asked how Kyuko saw him. Kyuko replied that she only saw him as a friend. Meanwhile, 2 girls from the home economics club were spying on them, and after meeting Kyuko, they teased her about Shuchi asking her out at an adult hotel. Kyuko felt embarrassed and quickly hid her face. However, Kyuko was curious and asked them why guys act so suspicious on Christmas Eve. Unfortunately, they didn't know the answer either, and said they would take her to someone more experienced in these matters. The next day, they decided to ask Hikari the same question. Without hesitation, Hikari gave a long and detailed explanation on the topic, more than they had probably ever heard in their dull lives. Hikari was curious why they were asking about this. The 2 girls subtly teased Shuchi, and Kyuko felt uncomfortable with the situation, so she left. Kyuko explained that her rejection of Shuchi's request must have hurt his feelings, and she didn't like that they kept teasing him. A few days later, as Kyuko was walking home from school, she was almost hit by a truck, but Shuchi quickly saved her. A few minutes later, as they walked home together, Kyuko asked Shuchi if he had ever asked anyone else out on Christmas Eve before. Shuchi replied no, adding that he and Hikari only went to karaoke. Shuchi told her about how he and Hikari went to a karaoke bar where they ran into Hikari and her friends. There, Hikari jokingly tried to show him the art of res, but was rejected faster than a dad leaving for milk and never coming back. Kyuko smiled and said she was relieved to see that Shuchi was still the same, though Shuchi didn't understand what she meant. Then, Kyuko expressed her hope that they would stay close for a long time, like childhood friends who always love each other. At that moment, Shuchi realized he was stuck in the friend zone. After the embarrassing incident at the underwear store, Kyuko invited him to see the Christmas tree decorations they made in the home economics club for the upcoming festival. When they arrived, Shuchi was stunned by the beauty of the Christmas tree. The festival committee chair and their partner were very pleased with the results and praised the club for their efforts. However, after everyone left and only Kyuko and Shuchi remained, Kyuko quietly revealed that they had run out of materials while decorating the tree. So, they had to improvise with underwear, which shocked Shuchi. Shuchi said he would pretend not to know about it. After that, Kyuko asked about the schedule for the Founders Festival. When Shuchi was about to tell her that he wouldn't be attending like before, Kyuko interrupted, saying she was only asking about the festival schedule. Shuchi then started rambling about his plans, even though it was clear that Kyuko didn't care. After Kyuko left, Shuchi felt really bad, realizing there was no way forward from there. On the way home, Shuchi passed by a playground and immediately remembered funny childhood moments with Kyuko. But as Shuchi tried to keep walking, his eyes caught sight of a man in a grasshopper mask climbing the slide. Without thinking, Shuchi approached the playground, and it turned out that the mysterious man was Ikuo. Ikuo made a few silly hand gestures, but suddenly he fell off the slide. Shuchi wondered to himself if Ikuo was drunk from drinking. Ikuo lay on the ground, feeling like a total loser, and started pouring out his frustrations. Ikkyo revealed that his crush had rejected his invitation for a date on Christmas Eve. Ikkyo looked angry and punched the ground, complaining that he didn't want to just be friends anymore. Shuchi, hearing that, felt sorry for him and suggested they channel this pain into the gym. That night, Shuchi tried doing some push-ups for the first time in his life. He took out all his frustration on his desk, thinking about how easy it was for Kyuko to reject his invitation. After that, Shuchi woke up before dawn and went for a run, trying to make himself feel better. The next day, at the Founders Festival, which also fell on Christmas Eve, Shuchi finally gathered the courage to tell Kyuko that he wanted to talk to her. However, Kyuko tried to refuse, saying she was busy selling cakes. Shuchi insisted, saying he would wait until the end of the festival. Kyuko said she had to clean up after the event, and Shuchi firmly replied that he would wait. After that, Kyuko mentioned that she had to report to the home economics club, but Shuchi didn't want to let the opportunity slip by. He repeated his intention to wait until after that. With no more excuses, Kyuko finally agreed to meet him on the rooftop. After that, Shuchi headed toward the rooftop, but on the way, he saw a couple embracing below. He paused for a moment to watch them. Shuchi was stuck there until Kyuko finished all her tasks and found him peeking through the window. Shuchi was startled and fell to the ground. Realizing what he was doing, Kyuko immediately kicked his sorry butt and stormed off angrily. Without wasting time, Shuchi chased after Kyuko to the rooftop, apologizing for acting weird. When they finally met, Shuchi tried to explain that he wanted Kyuko to see him as a man. With all the courage he could muster, Shuchi asked her out and asked Kyuko to be his girlfriend. After that, he sat between her legs on the narrow bench, as there was no other space. The conversation flowed between them, filled with the silliness that only happens between a couple. Kyuko stood up and extended her hand to Shuchi. He took it and pulled her close for a hug. Finally, after the long-awaited moment, Shuchi kissed her. And just like that, they lived happily ever after.